What's going on, fellow nerds? Welcome back. So today, as you can see, we're going to be talking about the Nikon ZR, as you just saw in that little unboxing. It's going to be pretty quick and brief. I don't have a lot to say about it. This is really just first impressions about sort of the physical appearance. I did get a chance to turn it on and kind of play with the menus. I'm pretty familiar with the Nikon menu system just because I've been using the ZF for over a year now. But yeah, so today's not going to be anything technical. It's not going to be anything really extraordinary or anything mind-blowing. It's really just going to be my first impressions. Now, if you're watching this, chances are you've probably seen a ton of videos out there already. There's already a ton of reviews that go really in depth. There's one of the channels that I really love, Brandon Talbot. He's already gone into pretty deep into it. He's had the camera for, it seems like, forever now. I know he has his own copy of it, and he's had it for at least, I'd say probably, it seems like a week or two. So he's already got a couple of videos up that are pretty awesome. But he got a chance to check out the camera pre-production, so a couple months ago. So he already did a couple of videos on that. And then there's a handful of other channels out there that they obviously have done pre-production videos on. The camera's, you know, it's been out for a while, so it's not like there's anything new and uncovered just yet in the camera as far as like what everybody's discovering. But if you're here, you're watching it because you may care about what I have to say about it. So let me just give you my first impressions of the camera and what I think about it. All right, so just gonna move the box out of the way. So as you can see, like normal, I always have a bunch of stuff on the desk here. And I'll go through sort of why I have these things laid out, a bunch of lenses, couple bodies, and a couple adapters on here. And the main reason and sort of like the talking point that I want to kind of go into today without going too far into it is, if you saw my video on the Komodo X that I did earlier, I guess it was earlier at the beginning of this year, why I switched to the Komodo X. If you haven't seen that, please go watch it. It's pretty telling as far as like how I even got to the point of why I would have even wanted to buy this camera. The thing that I think sort of gets not talked about enough out there is, and I don't even know if Nikon really meant to do this when they invented the Z mount a couple years ago, but the Z mount itself has been quite a game changer. And again, like I said, I don't know if they actually meant to do this, or maybe they did. Maybe it was in sort of like their plan to kind of take over the market in a different way than we have seen some of the other manufacturers take over the market. Nikon is now grabbing market share in a peculiar way. And they started doing that obviously in the photo side because they were known to be photography cameras first, and that's sort of where they have their lineage. But when they dove into video a couple years ago and they really kind of ramped up the game, you know, and they started, you know, playing around with like how are they going to, you know, approach video and their codecs. And that sort of led them to the acquisition of Red. That led them to, you know, today. So now they have this amazing camera mount, and now they also have this amazing codec with Red Coat RAW. And it's sort of like this 1-2 punch because the Z mount is so friendly to so many lenses. And the reason why I say that is because not only do you have obviously all of the Nikon lenses, this is a native Nikon lens that you can put on all of the Nikon cameras, you know, going from their photography cameras, from any of the Z cameras to the Komodo X, the new Komodo, the Komodo Raptor that just came out, Komodo Raptor, the new Raptor that just came out with a Z mount, to now the ZR. But now with things like this, which I'm sure you've seen if you've checked anything out about the Z cameras, this is a Z to E mount. So you can put this side to the camera, which is a Z mount, and on this side you can put a lens like this, which is an E mount lens, and you can adapt it to any E mount lens that's made for a Sony camera. You can put on now a Nikon camera, which includes the Komodo X, the Raptor I just mentioned, the ZR, and then again, any other Nikon Z camera. So that's why I think the Z mount is really the game changer of all And that opened up this like plethora of lenses. And it has to do with, you know, the science behind the Z mount. Again, I don't know if they meant to do this or, you know, this is some happy accident, but because you can adapt every Sony lens that's E-mount that's ever been made by any company, not just Sony, but any third-party company, then you can adapt any, just about any other lens to the Z mount. It just opens up this crazy wild amount of lenses, including things like all the cinema lenses. So this is a PL mount. So PL, which is the REPL system. So this is your typical traditional old school Hollywood cinema style lens that you fit on here. So this is a anamorphic PL lens that you'll put on here. And then this is the Z mount side that will go on, you know, the Komodo. I can put this onto the ZR. I can put this onto my, you know, ZF, which would be really strange, which I've tried, but, the Z mount is just crazy. So again, if you haven't seen my video about why I switched to the Komodo X and why I sort of abandoned all my Sony bodies, that's sort of what led me to here, because I had an OG Komodo and I was using this combination of 3 different cameras and switching lenses and really, you know, I was kind of slave to the different lens systems that I was in. And as you probably know, switching lenses is really expensive. So being able to adapt your cameras to your lenses, you know, becomes very, very awesome and user friendly and very handy. So again, I think the Z mount is really sort of like how we got to this point. So anyway, you're here for the ZR. Let's talk about the ZR. So my first impressions about the ZR. So weight wise, it's actually pretty sturdy. It, you know, there's a lot of plastic on it and that is to keep costs down, but it actually has a pretty good weight to it. If you've ever held something like this, the Nikon ZF, which has actually a lot of metal on it, because it's got this old school robust, type of film camera vibe and feel to it. It actually feels pretty comparable in weight. I have not weighed them, but they feel pretty similar in weight. And they're actually pretty similar in size. So I'm holding them up here. You can see, I usually carry a grip on the ZF because the grip is, again, it's pretty shallow on this camera, which a lot of people have complained. And it feels pretty similar. Like the grip is almost identical on this. So, you know, I've already seen there's a small rig cage or a grip for this. So I imagine companies like Tilta and Condor Blue and all the other cage companies are coming out with rapid prototypes, and they're probably going to start funneling out tons of cages for this thing. I'm sure you're going to be able to rig this thing out crazy and build it out to, you know, something like this. So, so weight wise, that's what it feels like. One thing I did notice when I pulled it out of the box, and even right now, the sensor feels a little loose, which is kind of odd because most mirrorless cameras, even when you shake them, you feel the sensor move, but I don't know. This one feels a little looser, and I don't know if that's my copy or if anybody else. If you have one, hit me up in the comments below or send me a message. I'd love to know if you're experiencing the same thing. You know, obviously I'm going to try it and see if that's a problem. And if it is, I'll have to end up sending it back, but hopefully it's not. When I turned it on, it seemed like the sensor steadied up and locked into place. So I don't know if that's just something that happens when it turns off. But yeah, anyway. So the battery door feels really flimsy and plasticky, which, you know, that's pretty common, but I don't know. This one feels extra flimsy. I was not able to take it off, which is kind of strange because most mirrorless cameras this size, you can just pop off the door like this. And that allows you to put like a dummy battery in so that when you're running a rig or you're running it on a tripod and you need to put a dummy battery in for a long recording, you can have access without, you know, if you're trying, especially if you're going to put a cage on it and you can't close the door with a dummy battery because there's a cable running out. You know, something like this, popping the door off is handy. So that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't tried to pull it off too hard, so maybe it's just stuck. They do use the same battery. So this is the Nikon standard battery. I don't remember the model number. Let me read. It is the ENEL15C, and I believe the C is the newest version of the battery, which just means it's probably the best capacity. But these batteries are not the greatest as far as like, they wear down fast. Even in the ZF, I have here, it'll get chewed up pretty fast. So I already have a bunch of them from this camera. So the good thing is they're interchangeable. The one thing that's cool, and when I turned it on and I was going through the menus, shout out to Brandon Talbot, because his video I think points this out pretty well. Not only can you can record in Red Code RAW, which is really the main reason you're buying this camera, but it also has 10-bit H.265, which is what I actually use mainly. I usually shoot most of my YouTube content on this camera because the file sizes are pretty manageable and the color's great, and it's 10-bit, which is really one of the underrated things about this camera. It's a full frame 10-bit camera for video, and it shoots 4K. You can also shoot 10-bit H.265 files on here, and you can shoot, I believe, regular ProRes files on here as well. Don't quote me on that. I have not gone through all the menus. But anyway, so shout out to Brandon Talbot. Again, he's got a video on that. He goes through all of the codecs already, which is kind of cool. And he did like a quick non-scientific comparison of all of them. So check out his video on that. But again, the real reason why you're buying this is because of the Red Code RAW, because up until this camera, this was sort of your cheapest way to get into Red Code RAW. And let's be honest, from a dollar standpoint, the Komodo, even though you can buy a cheap Komodo, like the OG one, on, a secondhand market like eBay or KEH or wherever for cheap, you can buy it to get into the Red system. You still have to kit this out quite a bit, right? Obviously, you have to put a lens on it, but buying a V-mount battery and then buying a monitor and buying all the other extra things that you need to get this up and running, you're still, you're going to be at least another couple $1,000s on top of just the camera body. With this, you just need a lens, a memory card, and you're good to go, because the screen on this is massive. And that's one of the highlights that a lot of people have been talking about, is how well and awesome this screen is. You can already be in the Red system and get the Red files right from this. And you can start shooting in 6K right away without having to, build out an entire massive rig. So a couple other quick notes on this. I think ergonomically, the button layout is pretty cool with the 1, 2, 3. It's kind of weird that it's 3, 2, 1. I love the audio video switch at the top. The rocker dial is cool, which is going to be, handy if you have, the power zoom lenses. It's got your traditional photo dials. So one here, one on the back. Those are, obviously pretty handy. I do not have the mic. I would love to try the mic, so I probably will end up picking up that shotgun mic. Photo-wise, I think it's going to be interesting to take photos with this. I'm not a big, obviously I'm a photographer, but I'm not big on taking photos with the screen. So I usually never take photos without an EVF. So I'm going to try it and see what we get and see how well I like it. The big complaint, or one of the bigger complaints that's been out there, is the micro HDMI. But again, come on guys, like, what are we talking about here? Like, for the price point that you're getting and what you're paying for at this size, like, there's got to be trade-offs for sure, and I'm sure that there's going to be a better version of this that's going to be bigger probably and a little bit bulkier with the codec, and it's going to be more expensive, and that's just going to be the trade-off. But one of the trade-offs they didn't do is this has 32-bit float audio inside, which is, that's awesome. That's huge. So to have that internally is a big win. All right, guys. So I'm here in the edit, and I forgot to mention a few things. One, I am actually recording on the camera right now. This is my first recording. This is the internal mics that I'm using, so we're going to see how good that is. I should say the external mics right on the camera. Number two, this takes CF Express Type B cards, which is pretty awesome. I know that the secondary card being micro SD is not ideal, and that's been a pretty big bummer that a lot of people are complaining about. So hopefully in the future updates, maybe we'll see something like at least SD regular sized. But anyway, CF Express Type B cards are awesome, and the fact that you can interchange those between this and a Red Komodo X is pretty cool, because I have a bunch of those. But honestly, the thing I wanted to talk about was this, which is this has to be the best RED camera with autofocus. Now we know that the Komodo and the Komodo X both have autofocus, and we know that it's subpar, but this right now is the best RED camera with autofocus. I am recording on the Red Code RAW codec at 6K, and we are using the autofocus. And because it's Nikon's autofocus system, it's pretty dang good. So yeah, let's get back into the edit, and I will eventually do an autofocus test. And one thing I don't know why I didn't mention this, but the boot up time, I'll show this. The boot up time is crazy, especially if you've ever, here, I'll do this here. We'll just do a quick comparison really fast. So I'm not even going to put it against the RED because that's not even fair. That's like putting a Ferrari versus like a horse. So I'm going to turn on the ZF and the ZR and we'll see. So, I mean, the ZF boots up pretty fast. It's a, obviously a photo camera, but the ZR, for what it is, and that was in the video mode, boots up really fast. So that's awesome. Oh, that's great. That's a great comparison right there. You can see the size of the screens. And, that's the same Nikon system. One thing that is strange is on most Nikons, there is an actual menu button to get you into the menu. So you just hit this and it gets you right into the main menu. With this, you just hit this little hamburger button and that'll get you in here. But then you have to actually hit on the screen the menu button to get into the menu. So that was, at first I was like, wait a minute, how do you actually get into the menu? So that was kind of weird. But that's really just a quick rundown on the ZR. As far as my quick first impressions, I don't really have any other thoughts on it right now because I haven't tested it. I haven't shot anything with it. I haven't even shot one photo with it yet. So it's going to be probably a couple of weeks before I get some good footage. I'm going to try to do some night shooting with it because low light is obviously one of the big things that the RED cameras do really well. And that's one of the things that I'm pretty excited about. One of the other things, and part of the reason why I got it, is I wanted to use it in the studio as my A cam, so that I have this as my A cam, and this is going to move to my B cam, so that I can use it for more of the A cam shots in the studio here. But in the real settings, it's going to be the B cam to this. Anytime I can't fit this in a situation, this is going to fit into that slot. So yeah, really looking forward to it. This is pretty crazy that, now we officially have a Nikon camera with actual RED software, even though this is sort of the first RED camera with Nikon parts. But I would love to know your opinion. So hit me up in the comments if you have any questions or if you'd like to see any tests. And yeah, we'll try to get them out there, and I'm going to try to keep pumping out these videos. So let me know, guys. See you on the next one. Peace.